Apparently, I'm on a PC kick for my reviews. First Hunted, the Demon's Forge, and then Cyberbikes, and now probably another game that no one's ever heard of but me, Ancients. Truthfully, what I'm about to talk about in this game mainly applies to the first game, Deathwatch, but from what I've played of the second game, Approaching Evil, nothing really changed other than the graphics. Little spoiler, personally, I think they got worse. But anywho, Ancients is an old DOS game. Dare I say, an ancient PC game? Yeah, I went there. It's a game I found on the same abandonware disc that I played the demo of Cyberbikes on. And again, it was another one that I used to kill quite a bit of time on. The disc only had the first Ancients on it, but I found the sequel on an abandonware site, which just so happens to be the same site that had the original. I know, big surprise. Anyway, it's similar in style to the RPGs of the time. You create a party, or use the one given to you. Then you check out a strangely barren town in a first-person view, in which you can enter about 6 buildings out of probably 1,000, one of which being the sole dungeon of the game. Your goal is to find the end of the dungeon and take down the supreme evil that's holding a fairy hostage. Yeah, that's what the goal is. I'm not even joking. You're saving a fairy that you saw in a dream. So of course, me being me, I didn't want to use the generic party you're given, so I booted those bastards out of there. So let me introduce you to my team. We have myself, the proud wizard that looks like nothing humors him. Cloud is in the front of the party, and he is of course a warrior, bearing no spells and having a powerful weapon that misses about 70% of the time. Next to him is my rogue Locke, who misses just as much with a less than powerful but still heavy-hitting weapon. Finally, we have Celeste, the priest of the group, who has the biggest tits the creator of the game can squeeze into that tiny little frame on the screen and still give you the full view of her head. And before you ask, that is the only female profile you can pick from. We're already off to a great start. And you would be correct in noticing that there's no music or sound effects. Maybe it was DOSBox, but I heard nothing at all. So I typically watch TV while playing this. It is a suggestion, because there's going to be a lot of grinding that you'll need to do in this game if you want to succeed. So when you start, you'll find out that your party doesn't start with jack. If you don't buy a weapon for at least your main warrior, you're going to be relying on your wizard to do damage, since you cannot attack barehanded in this game. This isn't smart because naturally you only have a small amount of SP to cast these spells, and you only start with a target one enemy type spell, along with some support abilities. So buy a knife or something for your warrior and then head into the dungeon. But first, you need to find the dungeon, and hopefully you don't get attacked in town because you can't camp here. If you want to heal in town, stay at the inn, which ends up being a waste of gold. Wow, I'm all over the place. Let me try to backtrack. But where do I start? I guess I'll go back to the character creation. Again, you can opt to use the default characters, which you can freely delete if you don't ever plan on using them. Creating a character consists of a name, choice of class, whether it be a warrior, rogue, mage, or healer. You probably want one of each just to be safe. Warriors and rogues are nice to be tanks, but strangely later in the game, your wizard and even the priest are going to be doing the majority of the fighting. After you choose a class in your profile picture for that character, you have to roll your stats. It's completely random, but you can roll infinitely for awesome starting stats. I think I read that the max stat is 19, which feels a bit low. If you mess up a character, feel free to delete them and start all over. But once you create the character, you must also add them to that party. This isn't done automatically. You can enter the game with a solo character, but obviously that's not too recommended. So let's talk about the dungeon and combat before I talk about the town. As I said, there's really only one dungeon, although there's about 9 floors in it. There's no warp spell, so you have to literally trudge from start to end in one trip, or retreat on foot if you need to head back to town to level up, revive a teammate, or trade. That's really only one other reason to head back to town, and that's for a quest item that's required to pass beyond a certain point. As for the dungeon itself, there's several different segments. You start in a sewer, then underneath find a bunch of gray walls with mold all over, then eventually some stone walls. It's way too easy to get lost because everything looks identical, with a few text descriptions being the only indicator on where you may be. No furniture, no wall hangings, not even any lights. Nothing. So I hope you have a good sense of direction or some graph paper. Or the registered version, which comes with this handy little map hint program. Too bad there's no way to print this. Or is there? I saved ink. If I did need it, I just took a picture of it on my phone and used that. That's not cheating, is it? I don't care if it is. After a while, you're bound to encounter some enemies. There is supposedly a speed stat, but I don't see why it matters, because combat always starts with your furthest left hero. It then goes down the line, and the final member attacks, and if there's any survivors, the enemy will fight back. That's exactly how it goes down every time. So in my case, once my mage learned some awesome group magic, he was able to take down most enemies in a single casting. And in the devastating priest abilities, sometimes the enemy didn't even have a chance. I will say that if any of your party dies, just reload the past game. It's not worth it to head back to town and risk it. I would suggest that when entering a new floor, save after every battle, then camp repeatedly to grind. It's not required, but I found that this helps. This is because camping not only heals a small part of your party's HP and MP, but also counts as a step in the dungeon. And oftentimes you'll encounter the enemy when camping. It can be a little frustrating when just barely getting out of a tough battle alive though, and then going to camp to encounter an even more difficult group of enemies. But again, it does speed up the XP earning process, so I definitely spam that camp button. Keep this in mind though. If your party gets wiped out, you get two options. The game asks if you want to continue, yes or no. Hit no, always. This will kick you back to the main menu, where you can reload your past game. If you hit yes, you still go back to the main menu, but your party will keep all earned XP, gold, items, etc., but also still be dead. With this way, you can take a backup party back to the surface to spend money to revive the dead guys. Or, as I said, reload and save yourself all the effort. Now perhaps you remember at the beginning of this review that I said that the warrior and rogue had lackluster accuracy. I don't understand this, to be honest. It seems to be worst against the tougher, lower dungeon leveled enemies like the dragons, but it seems like the whole purpose in life is to be bait. And in the fact that some enemies resist some spells, and you might start getting frustrated in later levels of the game. The thing that teases you is that it's very simple to get the best weapons in the game early on. There's a scripted event, and I think it was the 4th floor, where you can obtain both the sword and mace of Relnor, which are the best weapons of the game. But if you wanted to, you can grind in even the 2nd floor to obtain these weapons by normal drops. That's right, enemies on the 2nd floor have a chance of dropping the best weapons of the game. But what good is having amazing weapons if the guys wielding them can't even strike with them? I don't think there's anything left to say about the combat or dungeon, so let's move into the town and the buildings you can enter. There's an inn, where you can take a room or buy drinks for the patrons to learn a few things. It's here where the bartender will ask you for a favor as well for that quest I talked about earlier. This is the closest you'll get to a side quest in the game, but it's required, so I guess it's not even really a side quest. Anyway, there's a shop where the armorer will trade your gear. It's rare that I ever bought weapons, which seem to drop somewhat frequently from monsters, but armor is definitely worth the purchase, especially early on. You get access to a casino in case you want to gamble your gold away in a crappy minigame where you choose a color and hope it lands on that. Boring. There's a temple, which best use is to resurrect any dead party members that you may have dragged up from the depths. You can also have them heal your characters a bit, but it's best to have your priest do this and save yourself the money. Finally, you have the guild, which is one of the most important places in this town. It's in here where you level up. See, as you earn XP, levels aren't automatically gained. Instead, you head into this guild and click the character that has the proper amount of XP to upgrade themselves. It's free of charge, and once you click the character, you get a random stat boost. Yeah, random. Random stat, random number of points. It feels a bit strange, doesn't it? So the game may or may not make the game that much easier for you. The only thing that's consistent is that every 2 levels grants you a new set of spells. So at level 3, you'll learn a new group of 4 spells, and at level 5, and then at level 7, and so on. Honestly, you can easily get away with going into the dungeon and getting enough XP to gain 2 levels, because the spells seem to be the main reason, especially early on, to get those level ups. Oh, and on the subject of spells, did I mention that you need to cast one in order to actually explore the dungeon? It's literally bathed in darkness, and each of your spellcasters has a spell that lightens it up, so you can actually see. Why this is required is beyond me. So you absolutely need a spellcaster in order to explore the dungeon. So I will say that the game looks like it could be enjoyable, but I can assure you, it gets old quick. You fight the same enemies for it seems like hours, just to grind out a new level so you can venture beyond the first square, without worrying about getting lost and getting your ass kicked. There's no map, so even if you get lost, which you will without proper tools, i.e. the internet, you might be getting into some battles, even when you don't want to. Camping to regen lost health and magic can result in war battles, sometimes causing an even bigger loss to your stats before you can actually heal up. And the fact that there's no easy way to exit the dungeon, except for at the very end of the game, can be frustrating. Even the combat gets old when you start doing nothing but casting spells and hoping to God that your melee fighters actually connect with a blow. And even though that this is an RPG, which is normally heavy on story, there is almost nothing in Ancients that resembles a story. You'll get a small blurb at the beginning of the game, and a small blurb at the end, and that's it. Between, there's no fluff material. You just begin the game and start smashing in orc skulls. And without a story, it's hard to keep me motivated to continue on. I did for the sake of this review, but I can assure you, I doubt I'll ever come back to this game. So how are the graphics? Personally, I found them hit or miss. Some of the game looks decent enough. The environment looks okay, although there's really hardly any variety. But it's more so the enemy design that I cringe at. Granted, some look good, like the orcs, bandits, and really a lot of the earlier enemies. But some of the later enemies, the gargoyles, the zombies, the black elf, whose name completely confuses me, they all just look bad. I know I can't draw, but I'll be the first to admit it. Some of this, though, is embarrassing. And why the hell are the death crosses inverted? Is Satan laying claim to these unlucky heroes? Poor Cloud is going to hell. Anyway, real quick, I'm going to jump to Ancients 2 and show you these graphics. I'll let you judge for yourself whether they're better or worse. Or the same, I guess. And how about these typos? They're all over the place. I counted about 8 of them before I stopped keeping track. So, and item, Woodim shield, Kazoo wounds, Paladine? Was English the primary language here? According to the opening screen, you can order the Sequel by sending $20 to an address in Canada. So maybe they were French. The names of the creators don't look French, but I can't base it off of that. Oh well, I just wanted to mention these typos and the frequency of them. Finally, there are times where the text will transpose on itself. I guess I could describe it as bleeding together. It's kind of hard to describe. Usually it happens when the enemy is attacking you. The text flashes by so quickly that you'll sometimes see multiple lines in one row, making it difficult to read if you are truly trying to follow the combat scores. So, let me talk about Ancients 2 real quick. More accurately, the import option, because I feel it needs to be discussed. The game tells you that there's a way to import your previous party, but here's the thing, there's no actual tool to do so. Instead, the game expects you to copy the files containing your heroes and plaster them into the Ancients 2 directory. Once that's done, you can add them as normal. The game will convert them to the proper game. But, starting up the game, holy shit, what happened? Why is my party now level 1 again? That's right, your heroes begin from scratch. What is the point of importing if they lose literally everything that other than their names and profile pics? No weapons, no stats, fuck, not even the gold they were carrying? What is the point then? Not to mention that there's 2 new classes in Paladin, which is a warrior with level 1 priest spells, and Ranger, who is a thief with level 1 mage spells. So there's literally no point in having a regular warrior or rogue, or to import your previous characters. Oh, and one final thing before I wrap this up. There are a ton of new profile pics for your characters in Ancients 2, but still just that one female one. I guess there wasn't much call for female warriors in that world. Sad. Ancients is a fun game to start, but it shows its lackluster gameplay early. It's hard to motivate yourself to keep pressing forward when you have to constantly camp and hope you can actually heal up enough to survive the next battle. Then it's really depressing to see your mage and freaking priest doing more damage than a warrior with a big-ass sword. I usually enjoy these types of games, but I can't recommend this one. Just like Cyberbikes, my review from last week, this one is just a bit subpar. It's at least playable, though, which I can't say for all the games I play. Final score? 5 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.